Hey guys, it's Ryan, and this is going to be a walkthrough voiceover of the new Infernog Chaos Raid. Just going to go over little tips and tricks in this fight and different strategies. So here you can see we had everybody line up and fire the cannons aside from the two on the furthest left and right side. That's because those cannons won't hit when the ship's in the center. And then we also have 4 people assigned specifically to do cannons. A lot of this fight is just organizing who's doing what and making sure everybody has the proper roles for each phase in this fight. So yeah, we're just pulling the cannons, dealing damage to the enemy's ship, while we have 6 people going around killing the adds. You can also see that right now actually Pet Revive is in. I'm not sure if that's a bug or if that's intentional or whether or not that's going to be removed when you see this video in the future. But currently you can remove your tombstone and get a free extra revive in this raid. One thing to to look out for when you're trying to pull the cannons is the soldiers with the spear attack. They'll do a long range attack that will give you a shock debuff, and if you take damage from that shock debuff or from anything hitting you, like a melee attack or the potion debuff, you won't be able to pull the cannon. So you just gotta watch out for that attack. They also shoot an electric ball. That'll give you like a little debuff that'll explode like a time bomb, and it'll give you and everybody around you the electrocute debuff that will make you take the electric damage over time for 10 seconds. There's also the red squares that will appear on the ground. That's casted from the Crimson Balrog, and that will give you a potion debuff and does a considerable amount of damage over time if you stand in it. You may also notice that when the cannon is firing on the ship, when the cannons are glowing red, everybody that's pulling the cannons runs away from them, and that's to make it so that the potion debuff does not go on top of the cannons, which would basically render the cannon unusable. So whenever we see that, we like to call out to, bait the cannon shot so everybody gets off the cannons and those cannons don't get stuffed up with the potion debuff. And then here we have 3 people assigned to be pulling cannons and 2 people assigned to be killing adds. And then the 2 people that are assigned to kill adds also help pulling the 5 cannons there at the very start of the phase, get a little burst damage in there. So you'll just see us pulling the cannons based on where the ship is at. So if the ship's at the very top, then the very bottom cannon won't hit, and if the ship's at the very bottom, the very top cannon won't hit. The laser beam, it'll have a sound effect when it starts to shoot, and then as you would have just seen, the sparks come out of the dragon head when it's about to fire the laser. It might be useful for you to call out for the rest of your team if you're in voice chat, or you can have like some sort of like chat cue, like maybe like a L in chat or something from the lasers firing, because about half your party is going to be behind or like at the back of the ship, and they won't be able to see that spark, so they'll only be able to hear the sound effect, which can be kind of hard to pick up at times. So it can be useful to let your teammates know when that laser is going to fire, because that will kill you. But yeah, so it's the same thing here. The soldiers with their spear attack, they can electrocute you, stop you from firing the cannons. You can see that lightning ball right there at the top hit one of our members, and when that explodes, it'll give everybody around you the electric debuff that will take electric damage over 10 seconds, which you don't want. Yeah, so here it's just trying to pull as many cannons as possible, trying to phase him. The faster you phase him, the more time you have in the actual Infernog fight. Although the fight isn't a very heavy DPS check, at least in a 10-man party. In our party, we are running 2 priests, and you'll see why when we get to the 3rd phase. It is possible to do it with 1 priest. It just requires a little bit more coordination when you get to that 3rd phase, or more specifically the second half of the 3rd phase. You can also note that in this fight, you need a lot of accuracy to have a good hit rate. Most of us are running a minimum of 95 base accuracy, and then we're using, as you can see on that buff bar, we're using the Mega Veil Burger, I believe it's called, which gives 7 accuracy, and then we have the Sharp Eyes buff, and then of course the Guild buff. Guild personal buff. So here, the third phase is now starting. We group everybody on the railing, or as I stand on the railing and everybody gets in range of the bubble. So this attack right here he does at the very start. You want your knight to bubble that because it's a long stun and does a considerable amount of damage. After he does that attack, he'll come to the middle and he'll do another big AoE attack right there that knocks people back and does like 90% of people's HP. So you want to make sure you bubble that as well. And he'll do that attack somewhat randomly throughout the fight in this first half of this phase. You can try and bubble that if you can. He'll do he'll raise his hand in the air. It's that kind of animation. So the cannonballs are still fired here, and they still leave that debuff on the ground. If you can see on my character right now, I actually just went and pulled the cannon, and I had that target and like that blue beam of light on my character. That means that Infernog's targeting me. So it can be useful here to use the crossbows to keep Infernog in the center. And that's because those cannons only fire in a straight line, and you want both of those cannons on either side firing in order to remove the shields. You can see on Infernog above his health bar, he's got shields similar to CPAP, and you want to get those removed as soon as possible. So Infernog kind of likes to aggro on the cannon firers, and when he gets aggro, we just send them to the middle to help aggro him, and then we also utilize the crossbows to try and get him in the center. Here, when he's charging this up, this is like a gravity ball attack. It'll suck you in, and if you go into the center, you'll get a stacking potion debuff. So you generally want to try and bait that away from your team. You can see I was targeted there, so I went up on that ramp. One thing that we found is that putting it on the ramp is kind of the best place to put it, because you could stand directly beneath it and you won't get sucked in or anything, only if you're on the ramp, which isn't really necessary to use in this phase. The other way you can deal with it is falling off. Right as it's being casted, it'll disappear, but if you fall off the ship, you'll get a potion debuff that will reduce a spirit debuff that will reduce your spirit to 0. I don't believe I fall off here to show that, but that would happen. This attack you can't bubble, and it gives you a debuff that makes it so if you get hit by the potion debuff, it'll basically instant kill you. So you got to be really careful that you don't get hit by a potion debuff while you have this debuff on. And again, you just want to try and bait him towards the center. That way all of the cannons can hit the boss. And you just got to DPS him down until about 400 mil HP. And that's when he'll enter the second half of this phase, also known as the desperation phase. And one thing you might also notice in this fight is the weird... So that right there was the big AoE. And you can see that it wiped quite a few members of our party. That's because I wasn't paying attention, so I didn't get a bubble off there. And then you can also see the big red circles there. That's a projectile that Infernog will throw out, and that's another potion debuff. You want to make sure you're not standing in that. Yeah, you might also notice throughout the fight, Infernog's hitbox is a bit weird. It's oddly small for his model, and it can often be in a completely different place than the boss is. So like you can see where the damage numbers are at right now versus where where he's at, and they don't exactly align. So it can be pretty frustrating for melee characters. This fight's definitely a lot easier for ranged characters in that regards, as it's a lot easier to keep your DPS uptime. And there's that big AoE attack again. And then there's the debuff. Again, you can't bubble that. Even if you bubble it, you'll still get that debuff. So you probably want to save your bubbles for that AoE attack if you can get the timing down. Yeah, as you can see, we're about to enter the desperation phase. We have about 5 minutes and 15 seconds left. This party isn't like exceptional in terms of like our gear and damage. If you meet the gear score requirement, most likely your party is good to go for Infernog. It shouldn't be an issue. Alright, so here we have our two priests healing us at the start of the desperation phase. So you'll take poison damage over time here, and you can jump to avoid it, similar to in CMOC, but you don't get an attack debuff, so you don't need to jump like in CMOC, how you need to jump in order to deal your full amount of damage. But here, just jumping would reduce the amount of poison damage you take. So right here we have one of our priests operating the cannons to remove the shields, and we have another priest here to heal the party through the poison. And then we're also using Healing Lap and Tears off cooldown to heal party members. And you can see right there, there was that circle attack. It's very similar to Kandura's accuracy debuff circle, except this one does a lot of damage as well. So you want to make sure you avoid that. And then you can also see that red circle that just ticked on me. So if you watch Infernog, that green ball that he's holding, it'll turn a little bit blue. You see there, and I bubble it. It'll turn blue, which means he's about to shoot out these blue balls that will give you a ticking debuff, similar to Shu and Boo Boo in that normal mode dungeon, Blue Shade Cave. That once it's done ticking, it'll leave that blue debuff on the ground. And if you stand in that, your character will get shrunk, and you'll have a huge % loss in defense. I'm not exactly sure what the percentage is, but you basically get two-shot by the poison at that point, so you really don't want that to be anywhere near your party, and you definitely don't want to stand in it. So the strat that we're doing here is positioning those debuffs along the top side, along that railing, and trying to keep the bottom side completely clear. And that's because the priest, or whoever's operating the cannons, needs to use that bottom ramp in order to get to the cannons. And if it's covered by the debuff, then they're not going to have a very easy time getting to those cannons, which are really important in order to keep the DPS of the party up. And then, like I said, you can bubble those blue balls that give you the debuff, which should greatly assist your party in limiting the number of debuffs on the ground. But yeah, essentially, that's it. You just got to manage the debuffs on the ground. Don't put them on your party. And you should have a pretty easy time in this raid. Thanks for watching, and good luck in Inferno.